Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake, and I am coming to you at this time partly because the energy is so sweet, strong, and coming in blocks, not in lines and lines and lines, but in whole solid blocks. It feels to me, and yesterday and today too, I have had a new physical experience that is kind of stops time. The heat that I am experiencing in my torso is so intense that the heat alone I feel might take me. It doesn't come with visuals, but it comes with, like, again, like emotions, but in blocks, not in storylines or in whatever, but in blocks. And it's very solid and comforting. And this heat is just tremendous. It's spiritual in origin. I mean, this is the kind of heat that I've been talking about since the beginning. And first I said, well, I can't see any correlation. And then I saw that there was a correlation with the heat and my what I was reading or thinking or experiencing, and then being told that is the love of God, that heat, and that the chills, which I don't like, and therefore it only is supposed to come when it's really super important and it's my soul and it's a big deal, then I get the shivers. And so, yeah, I take note when I have heat and cold. And golly, that's kind of fun to know, right? So that's the thing. Part of this is just, I guess, just copying to that I'm kind of, that what I think is normal might not be normal, because I've melded the point behind all this is to meld this ascension process with daily life. That's my job. So what? Great. Tell me all about the Merkaba and how pretty sacred geometry is. Go ahead. Tell me about ancient history and whales and all that kind of stuff. Inform me about my DNA. Do all of that. What does it matter? Does it make my everyday life better? Well, I would say that it made my life weird and very informative and fun. And at this point, the idea is for me to live this daily. So it's kind of weird if I'm in argument with it. And I do have people around me who are in argument with it. And so that brought up the narrative thing to some degree. It was other stuff too. It's really just a fascinating idea. But the idea of someone holding a narrative for how I'm going to live my life, like my ex-husband, what he thinks I'm capable of, what he sees, is really how he sees me. There's one sliver on that mirror that vaguely looks like you, but is really just a projection of other people's shit. Third dimensional reality. And I listened to Magenta Pixie talk about these entrapments. And, whether or not they're nefarious entities that get gorge on panic and fear, there are. They're not powerful anymore. They're kind of unplugged from it all. But, oh my, isn't that entrapment? Yeah, it is. There are these entrapments that happen on the 4th and the 3rd. I talked about it last tape. How there are certain people that you just have to encounter just a little teeny tiny bit. And it's like sticking your little teeny, the tip of your big toe into a big black vortex of suck. You know it's not going to go well. All right? Because you can't do anything right off the dime, at the get-go. I would contend that there are some institutions like that. And people. Duh. There's no such thing as a group. There's only individuals being emboldened by other people's crappy choices at times. So, I think as I work through some of these entrapments and some of these energetic questions and the identity questions, at the beginning, it was one of the first things that they gave me. I saw this textbook, and it was like intense, and it was called Personality Reintegration: The Theory of Validity. And I said, well, full stop. I'm not going anywhere with that until I have a partner who loves on me so good that I am just supported in this process. Until then. And they said, partner or not, la 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 la. And I have written a great deal about it. My life sort of stands as somebody who has a big hit of light and then has to explain everything to herself all over again. And funny enough, it's kind of the same life as the one that was lived before. I spent some time forgetting that I'm a master of reality. But I got my memory back. And now that the knowledge is returned, isn't it funny that I had to dip into my identity papers to fetch something or put something away, because we had gotten some new identity papers. And the very first piece of paper is this handwritten thing that I don't remember writing. I know it's got to be me who wrote it, but it was so important it had to go in my identity paper thing. And I just always would kind of skim my brain over it when I saw it. Like, oh yeah, that's nice, la la. This goes here in the identity paper thing. And that's that. But it's been coming through again and again now. I saw it and I want to share it. It's, well, it's really cute. I want to show you. Because it actually bled through. The ink bled through. It was a Sharpie. So you can read it if you want. See? There it is. It says, information doesn't equal power. Action equals power. On the other side, it's not so much being judged for all the bad things. No. It's that there was so much good that could have been done right in front of you. Do that good thing. I had to. I had a lot to explain. Not only to myself, but to you. That was my job. And I did it gladly. And without a whole lot of understanding of what was going on. And thankfully so. I did not need anyone to criticize. And I didn't have anyone criticizing me. I tuned out anybody who had a hint of it. And I think that most people who would have critical thoughts knew to just, leave it alone. It's not that big of a deal, after all. And I appreciate that. It's not everyone's cup of tea. And, there's non-aggressive ways to go about it. And it's a little inappropriate for me to consider that an aggression anymore. That's just a preference. And so it's this aggression that I really want to sort of circle back to, because it has been the work of the last, since 2016. Then there was an end point to a lot of things on January 29th. Because I had finally just decided that I didn't need to expose myself to any more discomfort. And I didn't have to keep suffering. I was going to stop suffering now. And that's exactly what happened. I've been in a much more supported and supportive and happy and feminine and laughter-filled, safe place since last year at this time. Yes, there have been bumps and many frustrations, but I think these have been more of like final lessons, and what I'm really understanding is that when anymore I know how strong my preferences are, and so if there is aggression or difficulty or strife in my life, I'm there by request. I'm helping in some way, and it's up to me now to take control. Up until now, I have really not been willing to set limits in my private life. Not that many. I would let people do whatever they wanted until I just couldn't take it anymore. It seemed rude for me to set limits on people. That's what I do for a living. Fuck that. You're allowed. Be yourself. Just do it. But what I would find is that I would just get floored and hurt by how small people were. Again and again, it was like, really? Really? Shit. Where they would just, be small. And I can say, oh, well, I brought it on, or I disappointed them, or whatever. But, I wasn't small. I wasn't mean. I didn't go out of my way to hurt anybody. Ever. 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 And, so that was like a wake-up call in some regard when I finally just realized that, maybe people aren't intrinsically good and maybe I'm not. Maybe when I listened to my intuition and got myself into this jam that I'm in, maybe I shouldn't trust God anymore. Maybe all of this was just bullshit. So that was kind of a low point. And so it was also the way out. Because I'd gotten myself into a situation where I was pleasing everybody but myself. I wasn't being honest about who I was, what I wanted. And it wasn't okay for me to be angry. It was never okay for me to state displeasure. That was like really super threatening to the people around me. And so, it wasn't okay for me to have an opinion or a preference because they felt it was threatening. Oh my God. That's a very dark place to be. And very strenuous. And it's especially so if you're not able or willing to set a limit. To set boundaries. And to then be willing, expect that they're going to be tested. So it was very hard to set boundaries in my personal life, and very much a relief to be able to set them in my professional life. I know how to do it. I'm very good at it, and I get good results. And especially borderlines, they love the hell out of me because I set limits and I follow them, and they can't fuck with me. And so they're usually the ones who would, I usually I was the. There'd be a group of borderlines and they'd all like concur that I'm a bitch. To which, I'd say, well, cool. I'm getting through. I'm not telling them yes. They're not pushing me over. And they like that and they hate that. And that's sort of what borderlines are all about. So, all right, push, pull, push, pull. But I'm not giving an inch, girls. I know what's safe. I know what's true. I know what heals. And I'm not budging. And I'm right here. Do you want to talk? Yeah, that was very therapeutic with them. So, to me, this ascension thing is an interpersonal dance. And it's a karmic one. And it's a dharmic one. It's as much about choice as it is about knowing what needs to be done and then doing it. It's not all about how you do it. It's like that is very dangerous thinking. It's your attitude changes everything. Hey, if you're in a prisoner of war camp, that is grotesque advice. True. But take a look around. Something else probably needs to be said. In addition to, hey, it's how you hold your consciousness. And, when you put the where you are vibrationally is where you find yourself, and you find yourself in a camp, well then, how compassionate are those metaphysics then? Where is the compassion there? What's the story? Because a part of it seems possible, but how could that possibly be true? And in the interpersonal here and now, there are harms that are done. We harm each other. We actually harm each other. And yeah, by soul request and soul permission. But if you've been around somebody who is a black vortex of suck, well, my hope is that you can walk. And if you can't, that you understand what you're dealing with. It's someone who's lost their way. You're talking to someone who's much like the patient I was describing, who really is not reachable, not really, not in that state. And what looks like compassion to them in that state are boundaries, are limits, is the word no. Said in love, said without shame, said like a grandmother or a grandfather, like that. And this is an important aspect of ascension itself, because I stand as a bridge between many worlds. But I am firmly rooted in other people's lives who are living lives that they experience in 3 dimensions, not multidimensionally. And I can see things much differently, but to speak to them in those terms would be unfriendly, it would be unkind, it is unnecessary, and it breaks the spell. Let sleepers sleep. It's not anything that there's no hardcore awakening that needs to be done. So this action is, for me, the power comes from giving myself away, and that means smiling and opening up and being pretty and being cool and being willing to take compliments and get flirted with, because that happens hardcore a lot. And Sam will, I'm walking with my walker, and Sam will say, God, Mom, that guy was looking at you the whole time. And lately I looked up and I said, is that because I'm pretty? He said, God, Mom, yeah, don't you know that? It's like, it still is, I don't know. I mean, I don't see my face. And, the reactions to me and to my face has changed over the years as I've changed. So I don't know what I look like. What would you classify me as? So that's been helpful to have a son like that. And that softened me. And this teaching, oh my God, this teaching that I had long ago, I'm going to end really quick because I got this really pretty thing I'm going to bring up. This teaching was about compassion. That there was a dispensation of the magenta ray. This was in March or April or May of 12. It was so pretty. It was so like art. So just the language was just really super beautiful. I can't even. I describe it as super beautiful. It's just like, wow, very like sacred, holy kind of text kind of thing. The magenta ray. And they went on and on about how the magenta ray is, this being state, but it's activated and lived through gentleness. And that these are not entirely human states at this point. It is a learned skill. And isn't it nice there's a dispensation of magenta to help? I think so. So I have two things to close, which are really super great and make me feel very happy. One is that I had an astrological and Akashic reading from Michelle Karen, who works with the Cryon Group. And that was in March of 2015. And they gave me a lot of information about a lot of things. Yikes. And one of the things was they were very, very, very insistent that I consider crystal therapy, healing with crystals. And they saw a few things that it made sense that I would do something like that. And they ended the really kind of mind-blowing and confirmative reading with an admonition that now is the time to really believe that you're loved and believe that you're even if that love is highly unconventional, and because you are highly unconventional. And walk with caring and sweetness and laughter like is your way. And stop hammering people. And it was like, wow, that's... It might be a velvet hammer. But yeah, it's been a lifetime of really just by beating my own drum. It's a big drum, and I use a hammer. It's just like, yeah, you don't have to hammer people. You can be sweet and soft and gentle. You can be gentle. How about you could try that? And, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop being a badass. But it does mean I'm not a caricature of a badass female warrior or whatever the hell. I am a multidimensional being. And if you're watching me, either you already are or you're well on your way. So, what I've learned in this process, even, looking at my last tape and how that looked, looking at how I'm seeing things, what I appear to be, depending on who you are and what time of day, and your role to me, and your narrative, and what narrative I happen to be in. Well, isn't it obvious? Don't you see it? This is a quantum reality. Why trouble yourself? it's not so much about what you do bad. Not really. It's about what good is in front of you and whether you do it or not. So do a good thing. Walk in gentleness and with a bad ass joke on your lips. And the wisdom of the ages breathing through you. And the body joy of someone who is woken from a coma. Go out and live. So yeah, there was that beautiful admonition of hers, and then I found this book, and I want to show you. Oh, God. Weak. I'm so weak, Sonny. Oh, my arms hurt. I can barely lift my books. Oh, help me lift my books. All right, so I do want to mention a couple of things that Michelle Karen said, just because it helps me, okay? They told me about a very karmic relationship. It's just like, oh, Lordy. I'd forgotten some of her stuff. But they were trying to, I think, get me used to my power and, like, comfortable with maybe that I had some. And they spent a great deal of time on a relationship, which, you know, is like allegorical and archetypal, a couple of them. And that surprised me that they could see that. And I say they, it's Michelle Karen, but she spoke as an entity. It was a very long part of the reading, actually, but it sort of stands as a portal to a lot, and to kind of the next phase of my life, given the human design that I had. And so, you know, all things work for good, and it just brings up how bare naked we can stand in front of the right astrologer. Yikes. They really can see a lot. They helped me because they told me that people that I stand as a really powerful mirror, and that I expose things in others, and they react, and I shouldn't take it personally. That I'm always careful and aware and examining myself, but things are strange around me. And when people are strange around me, I have to remember it doesn't belong to me. So that's good. That helps me a lot, because that is kind of the story of my life. They explained about all the ET stuff and how much that is a part of my reality, the sudden awakenings, and that they called me a magician of reality and an awakener, gifted with writing, teaching. I'm going to do a teaching novel. A teaching novel enhances people, that will enhance people's lives. And this here, never satisfied with accomplishments, miles ahead of other people, extremely powerful and humble, under radar, not too visible, anonymous, to disappear. Tremendous power, surprised at responses, people feel very threatened by you. There's a gap in perception. I seem normal, and then they get a whiff and they're overwhelmed. Profound impact on my environment. I try to be anonymous, and it's true. They said you just need to walk into a room. People can, you'll always be noticed. And these are things that, you know, who are you going to talk to that about? I have a friend who is much like me, and who understands this. It has a different flavor than mine, but it's nice, and it helps, because it's something that can sound really stuck up, I always hated stuck up girls. Like, really? You know, you poop just like everybody else, you asshole. That's what I thought about stuck up people. Really, if you're that arrogant, well, you're just so fragile. It's just all written all over you, you poor dear. And that's what they said. It's like you've got X-ray specs, and you're just everybody's naked around you. You can see right through them. And how comfy do people feel around a human X-ray machine? Not very. So that's why I always say, hey, anybody can come close to me, you get high marks. Just you're already my friend. If you can get through whatever cloud of meteor dust is in my fields that makes people go, ow, ow, ow. And in the end it said, be loving, caring, walking in beauty, not hammering people, gently transitioning them, using my style, being sweet and loving and nurturing, respectful, honoring, sharing the road with elegance and grace. And to be in a place where I can just say, I respect that choice, and the door's open. You know? That's all you can do around here. It's Free Will Planet. So I feel like I reached the end of a road energetically, and sometimes in my little legs and stuff, and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself next, you know? And I have some, like really strong marching orders because I have my surgery in a month and 4 days. Not long at all. So I have some things I have to prepare for, and prepare my son for, and prepare our home for. So it's a big time. And there are therefore lots of new beginnings and lots of new ideas, but oh, aren't they pretty? And they're really stable. They feel strong, like the blocks I was talking about. So I want to show you one of them that I got, a little permission slip I got. And I'm doing it so that you might look in your life and see what's going on with you. Ooh, you might want to even do a video as a reply and say what's going on with you. What are you experiencing? What are your excitements? Are you discovering new things, or are you feeling new things? Solid somehow much more solid, less buffeted, and maybe even able to set gently and firmly limits on behavior that, if left to run, will leave you feeling humiliated, like you've given too much, or like you haven't been heard, or it's just you're going to let the monkeys run the zoo. How long? How long? Are you the elder in this dyad, in this triad, in this family, in this workplace group? Are you? Because part of the entrapment, or the change that people are going through with the 4D, the break of it is to just see that it's no longer relevant. Like in this 4D area that kind of keeps you in karmic. I mean, what I've always said is karma is just cyclic behavior that has no change. It has no purpose in it, but it is laden with feelings and often with aggression, but just with very, very low amplitude energy. And it's cyclic, and it's really hard to break. It's habitual, and it appears to be functional. It appears to be purposeful. It appears to be sainted at times. It appears to be a lot of things. But it's it leads nowhere, and the heart is hurting the whole time. And there's a disengagement of sight, vision, and the heart. So it's when the body comes online and you begin to think that you're worthy. Change happens when you believe that you can change, that it might be worth it, that it might be possible. And you wake up and maybe today's the day. And maybe it isn't. Maybe not today. But if you're feeling it, it's upon you. What is it? Oftentimes it's change, and you might get that in waves of just like, something's not right, and it'll pass. Maybe you think it's gas or something, and then everything's back to normal, and you'll get just a hit of, Well, I think that's a nice warning system. That to me just gives me a little bit of advanced warning that there might be a shock to my system. Get ready. And I've had those a few times in this process. I no longer fear them. I used to, because I knew it meant cataclysm, and it did. But it was required and welcome in the end. It felt natural in the end. And so I've talked a little bit about release of attachment as being part of this process. And I think that is true when it comes to this sticky stuff, as I referred to it, and that is limiting and entrapping and makes you feel like shit about yourself and other people, and is not elevated in any way, and appears to be being authentic and all that. It's not. Almost. And it's that almost. It's that, like, beating of your heart that, yes, I'm worth this. I want to do this. And, maybe it's taking some class at the community center. Maybe it's taking, like I've said, maybe it's taking a different way home. Maybe it's writing, and maybe it's connecting, and maybe it's visiting somebody who needs to be visited. Giving to someone who needs to be given to. You can feel it, and you have what they need. Do it. Now is the time. And when you've got a gift in your hand, it's really hard to hammer someone. So I'm learning a different way to be, because before I had a delineation between my healing self and everybody else. And now I really, and I used to feel really like, oh, poor me, I have to heal the masses on my time off. This is bullshit, that kind of thing. And then coming face to face with the things that I really need to heal inside of me, or needed to, or need to address, or tweak, or have fun with, or learn about. So that it's, I think that, like, therapy and interpersonal stuff, well, that's just tweaks. And sometimes, if you tweak the behavior and things get better, and you keep tweaking it the right way through trial and error, you can retrofit an understanding of what's going on. Or you can get down to the meat and potatoes of it right off the bat, which is, I think, just finding worth in oneself. And for me, I'm actually writing down a list of things that make me feel happy, that make me feel solid and happy and good, or that have in the past. And they're not entirely just activities, but they're mindsets and how I feel when I'm doing something. But also these fun things. And if writing a list of fun things to do, to remind myself how to live a happy life, well, all right, if I've got to do it, I got to do it. It's sort of a reintegration, I guess. Stating preferences and then following through. I'm very blessed because I have a chance now, until I heal up, to spend time as I wish within the parameters of my physical infirmity. And that allows for study time, writing time, editing and enjoyment. And that's neat. I'm beyond blessed. And I know it. And I'm very grateful. And that's an active thing. Can I do more to express it? Yeah, I think I can. Yep. And one way I'd like to begin to explore is this. Let me show you. It's more of a confirmation than anything else. I found it on my bookcase and I'd forgotten that I'd purchased it. I'm surprised I purchased it. I know it had to have been expensive. Stones of the New Consciousness. And what I wanted to share with you to close is that much of the text of this is like, it's indexed, and the index reads like everything that I love, I guess. Sweat lodge imagery and master shamanite. I'm just reviewing really quick. Talismans, self-healing, senses, intensification of, inner silence, Rupert Sheldrake. Can you dig it? Yes, I can. Ascension, a whole bunch on ascension. Auras. I mean, it's all about a way that is not codified in any one text. But here it is, all this stuff I dig, and a really super high percentage of it, and none of it that I think is dumb. I mean, that's the thing. I keep reading text, thing after thing. It's like, oh, I agree. Oh, my God. Yeah. It's just great. So one of the things that happened, though, I had that meditation where I had this huge red crystal, and it was in my insides, but it was on the outside, too. So what I saw, and they said, can you imagine? They kept saying, can you imagine? How awkward. No wonder you felt awkward. There was this big, huge red crystal cut like a diamond, really pretty. And it was in my torso. And then it came out, and it was spinning lazily. And then it began to spin faster and faster, and they came through as I was talking and said, it begins to spin so fast that it turns in, it's a substance. It turns into a substance. They repeated it 3 times. It was like, it stopped time in that one video that I was referring to this meditation I had. In the meditation, too, there were 12 little diamond flakes. They kept saying diamond crystal, and they were like flakes of mica, and they shone like diamonds, and they were in my fields, and I understand that's just part of my biology. But they came out and started dancing around that beautiful stone that had turned into a substance, not a liquid, a substance. And I understood, oh, that's the spin. I felt the spin, and I realized that's how I travel. That's my Merkaba. And then I realized I was in this long white tube, and I realized that was my column. But it was also this really cool subway, matrixy, white, no boogeyman, and the people I channel talking as the announcers. It was really cool. But I was thinking, okay, well, maybe that stone, that red stone that's so odd, maybe that's in here. This was the first thing I read. I looked at the pretty, pretty pictures until I saw this red stone. I thought, well, okay, well, let's check this out. It's really kind of, it's a little bit even hard to believe. This has to do with activating Kundalini energy. It has to do with alchemy, the archetype of the high priestess. This is like a conductor of divine energies. And he says that, this is what I read. I went right to this. Its capacity of opening the base chakra portal to receive life force from the earth aids greatly in a process I want to call, by an unusual term, the etherization of the blood. This term is taken from Rudolf Steiner, who coined it. My understanding of this process is that the etheric body is readily able to attune to the currents of the spiritual worlds, and that within the material body, the blood is the most receptive system for the transfer of spiritual energies into the physical self. Holy crap. The etheric body is deeply entwined with the physical body, and its first entrance into the physical body is the flowing, ongoing stream of the blood. And the mantra that he has for this is Crimson Cupright speaks. The breath of the earth enters you through me. I am a daughter of the mother, and I pour her love through my heart into yours. Ooh, it's so pretty. And there is one about diamond. There's diamond, and I need to kind of look at that. I haven't. That was very meaningful to me. And the reason I brought Michelle Karen up is that she stopped sort of the whole astrology thing and told me the person I should be talking to, which made me suspect because I'm a bitch, the person I was supposed to talk to, and the therapeutics that I was most prone to really just blow the lid off of, and that would be crystal healing therapy. And so I put that into the Google machine last night and was blown away with what's available. And the stones really do they're the ones that teach. And I do have a better relationship now with that kingdom now since 2016, when they allowed me to spread the word about some changes in the chakra system that I was able to make, and I wanted to disperse, so I did. They let me. So I'd like to work with them again, and so I see new opportunities coming, and I also can envision working as a nurse if as need be. The specter of death raises its ugly head as I see that surgery is closer and closer, because there's always an element of sudden death. I will obviously be drugged out of my body. I have no intention of terminating this life. It's just begun, really, because really understanding that my energetic signature is really this non-aggressive sweetness and light, and that I've dealt with a lot of darkness and done a lot of shadow work, but that's really not who I am. It's not what I'm about. It's not what I seek out. It's what I avoid, and what I walk with, apparently. So I have some things under my control, and one of them is who I choose to spend my time with and how I choose to spend my time, to do as much for myself as possible. So what can I do? Well, around the house I can paint, I can do I can do a lot of exploration, but as a lame child looking out the window wishing that he could play with his friends. And that's been a very fine pursuit. I'm looking forward to it ending. And so with this, I just want to say, hey guys, it didn't seem fair to go through all this work and all this effort and to feel better and to have a few things figured out and to ghost you guys. That's bullshit. It needs to be described, just as the pain needs to be described and the confusion, so does the clarity. That was my original purpose behind Deeply Awake. It's why it's here. To describe these places of clarity and happiness in my nice little robe, thinking on my early morning orange fog, and now there's snow on the ground, and I think I'm not going to go to church. I think I'm going to stay home and snuggle up. I think so. How nice. I describe my life for no other purpose than I find it interesting, beautiful, and somehow imperative that I record it. Okay, whatever. And this is a long tape again, but there's an anomaly, so it's worth it. There's a lot going on right now. I don't know if you're having the heat flashes too, but physically there's a lot going on, and I just like to ride it. I don't really take a whole lot on the outside too seriously, and the more I can really disengage from the reality of it, the better. Does that make me psychotic? Am I going into my own psychotic world? I'm setting my own tone. I'm proclaiming my divine free will. I'm setting my own tone. And it feels good. It really does. And the whole idea is to just remain to keep it sustained or to go higher. Is it okay to dip? Well, sure. But the same with any kind of lower agreement thing. When you get to a high enough state, doing it is just really uncomfortable. And it's not so much about becoming better than the habit or better than the person or better than the relationship or better than the work or whatever. It's just realizing that it doesn't fit anymore. It just doesn't work anymore. And like with the entrapments that Magenta's talking about, that breaks the entrapment. It breaks the agreement to hand over your free will. A lot of stuff needs to happen in darkness, in secrecy, in silence. And then, when that's broken, then truth becomes the currency, not deception. And that's what's happening. And people go, ow, ow, ow. Well, go for it. I'm really okay with understanding as a bridge between worlds. Yeah, I do contain dark, and I can tangle with the dark, and I do have weird things happen to me. I'm in 3D land, involved with other people in 3D land. And yeah, I sparkle it up. That's why people hang out with me. That's why I hang out with them. They're sparkly too, usually. And, I'm just going higher. And so what connects us all is a common theory that we love each other. Some of us are not behaving as if that's true. And that's a conundrum for them. They're doing work. Ooh. I think I'll join in. So I'm better with that now. Up to a point. But I'm setting my limits. All right, this has been a very, I think, challenging, enjoyable, and long tape. And I don't know what that's about. I don't know. I thought this was over for me. But part of it is just explaining what it's like, because it's really finally it's making sense in a new way, and it is causing peace where once it caused strife. It's letting me have relaxation where once I felt anxiety. And it's real where once I feared it was not. That's part of it. And to just be okay with how it is. These two documentaries I saw with these people having extraordinary experiences in their lives, but they're so ordinary in their lives. And the reactions of others and wishing for support and sometimes getting none. And it makes you wonder, can you push it so far down that it just isn't real anymore? It doesn't matter to anybody. That's what it was like for me. And then in 2011, 2012, when the lights came on and this was suddenly activated and real, oh, what a relief. So I really do get what it's like for people who have these extraordinary experiences and the isolation that creates, and it kind of let me off the hook for feeling it and just for being okay with it. It's just part of the package, and it's all right. So I leave you in love, peace, wonder, humor, goodwill, and excitement, hope. There's a reason to be hopeful. It's the hardest part's over, and there are good things afoot. It's a good time to just breathe deep and enjoy this. We've pushed so hard for so long. So enjoy your Sunday. I might eventually have to get out of my robe. I think that's the game plan, but not right now. And if I were writing to you, I would describe in luscious detail how wonderful it feels to be sitting here talking to you in my jammies on what feels like a really blessed Sunday morning when my heart is light. I have no anxiety, and I am embracing change and hope and the beauty of myself and the valor and courage of others. Isn't that pretty? Well, I can't wait to rewatch so I can see that big wow. I want to see what happened. Pumping some light? I think so. It's fun. I was going to channel, but I think I did. Right, quantum buddy. Have a quantum day. How can you not? Right. Namaste and Selah.